It's largely as expected. If I can get it right, it must be largely as expected. The the coaches talked so long and so positively about the Fijian game and how relevant it was as a form guide that you couldn't dismiss it, that they almost had to promote somebody from that team after they won 53-0. And the standout performer was obviously Craig Gilroy. And unfortunately for Andrew Trimble, he made a couple of mistakes just before he was withdrawn before the hour mark. So that kind of flagged that his position might be under threat as well. And then, of course, halfway through the Fijian game, they swapped wings, so they gave Gilroy 40 minutes on the left wing. And that, for me, was a real signal that Gilroy was very much under consideration. And it's quite a bold selection when you consider that he's not a first-choice winger for Ulster this season. With Tommy Bow's arrival and Andrew Trimble's preference over him on the left wing, he's been largely kept on the bench for Heineken Cup matches, and so his game time is a bit more limited than it was last season. But he loves Thomond Park. The wonder is he signed a new contract extension with Ulster, didn't join Munster. He got the match-winning try there in the quarter-final of the Heineken Cup last year. Wonderful hat-trick last week. There was actually a buzz from the Thomond Park crowd when he was getting the ball by the end of the match. That's how exciting he was. There's a little touch of the Shane Williams about him. And I think as well, they had to tap into that whole zeitgeist of the performance against Fiji. There was a calmness and a relaxed approach and a confidence about it, almost a fearlessness about him. About him and that whole performance, particularly coming from the young Ulster Tyros, that I think they need to dip into and get a little bit of that tension out of their performance they showed against South Africa, and which is always liable to afflict them against Argentina, and journalists bombarding them with, is this the biggest match in 4 or 5 years' time? Which I don't personally believe it is. There's a 1 in 4 chance. It doesn't really make much difference whether you finish in the top 8 or 9th in the rankings. You'll end up in the same group anyway. And nobody's going to tell me that this match is going to be bigger than, say, in the next 4 years, if Ireland play England in a Grand Slam shootout at the Aviva Stadium. I'm not going to buy that. It's very tempting to go with the next big game. The next game is the biggest because it's the next game. That's it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a massive game and it's very important in the long term that Ireland secure a top 8 seeding for sure. It could be very important. Well, I've no problem with Jamie Heaslip as captain at all. I've asked Joe Schmidt why he always makes Jamie Heaslip captain when Leo Cullen's not there, and he points out to his work rate, his astonishing work rate. I mean, okay, the big leg pumping carries of a few years ago aren't as evident, but his work rate, if you look at the Opta stats, and Juan Martin Fernandez Lobe, the Argentinian captain, is generally regarded as world class in what he does with Toulon and what he does with Argentina. And the stats for Heaslip are almost identical in terms of tackles made, in terms of effectiveness at the breakdown particularly, and so forth. So I think he leads from the front. And he was 11 or 12 from 12 as Leinster captain. Unfortunately, that record didn't carry on with Ireland. But if you look around, Ireland are missing 2 Lions captains. Another obvious leader in Rory Best, as well as the last 2 European Players of the Year. So the options in terms of the captaincy were not manifold, and I think unquestionably Jamie is the best of what's available there for that role. It's a very hard game to forecast, actually. It always is when these two meet. Argentina are a better team than they've come to here in November in the past because they have that rugby championship under the belt. You play the All Blacks, South Africa and Australia 6 times in a period of 3 months. It's going to make you a better team. It's like keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the neighbours. They're used to an intensity. They showed that against Wales. They deservedly beat Wales. They well beat Wales 2 weeks ago. They were eventually overtaken by a brilliant French team last week in Lille, and they were brilliant. And France, a bit worryingly, are the only European team to have beaten New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Argentina or Samoa in this November window so far. Only France have done it. Maybe Argentina could be a little bit tired. This is their 12th game since June. They're not used to that. That's the flip side of that. But then Argentina never seem to do tired. They just don't do tired. But I just think that Ireland might have a little bit more about them. They're going to have to play a lot better, particularly in their breakdown work. That's a concern. Make more hard yards going through around the fringes and up front before they give it out to the backs and not stop running across the field so much. But I do believe that there's a big game in this Irish team, and all the reports, the very good training sessions for the last 3-4 weeks in camp, and a little bit of dipping into that mindset of last week, then yeah, I'd just about go for an Irish win.